you some few physicals.
Okay.
Just around here, we have the circle interchange,
Yeah.
the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. It's supposed to remodify the scenery within that area, but also ultimately improve commuter transportation. And that ultimately also will improve economic livelihoods, because then people can go to work early. They can also be able to transport goods and services across the city into areas that perhaps usually they would have taken a long time to get access to.
Okay.
That's marginally an improvement, is that not it?
You see, that brings into question the issue of priority, right? We have, if not the most important route in this country,
Which is
Accra, Kumasi.
Oh, you're talking about the Suhum section that hasn't been completed.
Yes, you understand.
Government says that is...
No, but my point is that it brings into question priority. You understand what I'm saying? Whereby we even get loads of our revenue in terms of these landlocked countries that are actually bordering Ghana, who use tracks that goes through now to and fro. Now, all these businesses, as we speak today, has actually moved to Togo
or Cote d'Ivoire.
Or Cote d'Ivoire. You understand? Now, all the produce that we get from that part of the country and the commuting of people from Accra to the northern part of this country goes through that route. So if you are sort of facing such a dilemma, what do you do in terms of priority? I'm not saying that having an interchange and Kwame Nkrumah Circle is a bad thing, but there's a project that we've been stalling on for the last 6 years. You understand what I'm saying? So that is what sometimes it puts into question, it brings into question the real reasons behind some of the projects that we actually go out there to prosecute.
What do you think are the reasons?
Well, your guess is as good as mine.
I don't have a guess, so I'm wondering what responses you should give me a response. Now, is it a point in time that now we've realized that, well, these are the things that we need to do, and so we're borrowing more to make sure the right projects are undertaken, and the things that should have been done haven't been done?
Well, I mean...
because really, that's the criticism always coming from the critics in the opposition.
Oh, I mean, certainly, I don't think that we have borrowed monies, that we have not actually used them for projects that will actually benefit the Ghanaian.
We haven't seen, I mean, the thing is that you can give us examples of some of these projects, and then I'm sure that we will situate it.
I'm not coming here with a certain mindset, you understand? If I should give you examples, I mean, we know of certain roads that were were started without any monies at all. That a government, the NDC government, should actually go borrow money for those projects. Now, you were talking about physical things, yeah? Now, you go around, even Accra, just Accra alone, Awoshi to Pokwase, we know what is happening there. You go down the 37 to Teshi areas, you know what is going down there in terms of roads. Roads that are being improved upon in the northern region, the Pond Water Project. I mean, we can name a host of them. What it is that the most important thing that a government should do is when you borrow, you stick it in the right place. And that is what the Mahama administration is doing, exactly that. You go around, you see them. You understand? Even monies that have actually come to address this national ID, which we always talk about, you know, is one of my passions, yeah? You go around Accra, you see the street naming, yeah? What has happened recently in Wa? They are ahead of almost everybody in the country. These things are ongoing. So when you say I should name them, a host of them, which we can actually name. But the most important thing is that, let us question, is President Mahama's government borrowing money and using them for the right stuff? The answer is a big yes. You understand? Now, if it is no, then we have the audacity to question government. But the answer is yes. Because these things are physical stuff that we see. Nothing out there is what should I say? There's nothing out there that we can say that, we borrowed this kind of money and we didn't know what to use that money for. Now, the Kumasi-Accra road, yes, it is very true. We need that section improved so that at least moving down that road would help with what? Trade and with whatever the economy. Having said that, I don't think that in the last 6 years, sections of that particular stretch from Accra to Kumasi had actually remained the same. The dual carriage area.
Yeah, true, they haven't remained the same because the contractor has not been working on it. Work has stalled. That's why it hasn't remained the same.
It's rather unfortunate that particular section.
It's rather unfortunate, Mr. Horisankra. Is that how you can best term it? This is a major road.
It is.
It's called the Eastern Corridor route. Is that not how it's been categorized?
Hold on. Is it not unfortunate if that particular stretch is not being addressed? It is. What else do you want me to say? But what I am trying to say is that if we are going to look at it that in the last 6 years, nothing at all had been happened to that particular road from Accra to Kumasi, then of course that is not the case.
Okay, now let's talk on the subject of street naming and the need for identification, etc. What should be the best way, Eric? I'll start with you. And how beneficial would they ultimately, as naming our street, doing the proper redemarcations and having a national ID going to improve our well-being?
I mean, for any modern society, I think that it's imperative that we have some form of identification. And the fact that even it has national security implications, whereby we are surrounded by, a few other countries, and all these nationals, the fact that we have probably one of the most porous borders across Africa, it's important that we're able to put some of these things in place to make sure that we're actually protecting our nation. And then also, it actually helps in terms of businesses and, basically a sort of database for us to find out how we can help people in certain demographics. So we know for a fact that we have maybe people between the ages of 18 and 35. There's a percentage of where this is where they are, this is what they want and all that. So it's a very good thing. Now, my challenge on that particular subject is the fact that we seem to have so many different IDs, right? Whereby the SNIT is undertaking a project, we have driver's license, we have the NI themselves, we have voter IDs, and a host of other things, even the national insurance, national health insurance cards, and all that. So, is it the case that we do not have a system where we can actually compress all of these things into one card so that it will save us all the money?
Is that what's done in other countries?
And
is that the experience?
No, because if you have like a driver's license, for instance, it has all your data, right? Now, even in places like UK, for instance, you don't even have a voter's ID card, right? You're registered on the roll, all right. You go there on the day of voting with your ID card. Sometimes you don't even go there with an ID card, but you go there with the voter's roll. Once they go into the database, they'll find your name there. You understand? All it needs is for you to be able to even mention your name and then your date of birth, for instance.
And it will be verified.
And it will be verified. So what I'm saying is that now, if we're in 2014 and we're undertaking a project like that, why don't we go with the most efficient, right, and the most technologically advanced way of doing it, so that we don't come back after 6 years to change it again like we're doing today? Because yesterday I was listening to the PRO of the NIA, and her argument is that they are changing the cards because they wanted to meet international standards. And one would ask, what are really these international standards? And what went into, what was put into place in the first place when we're doing the first ones, the initial ones? You understand what I'm saying? Does it mean that we actually wasted money on that particular project? So it's something that we have to look into. And then in terms of the street naming, I mean, for instance, you have an emergency and then you call the police or the ambulance service or the fire service. There's absolutely, it's like a nightmare. Actually,
there's no way they can locate
exactly. So, but then whilst we're naming the streets, then we have communities in this country where you can't, there are actually no proper access roads to. into them, right? So, I mean, I think that is something that we can do in tandem to make sure that if you're naming the streets, then how about certain communities in this country, especially in the urban centers where...
Which communities?
Oh, no, I mean, it will be quite unfair for me to mention.
You're afraid.
Yeah.
No, I don't think you're afraid. I mean, what it is that, I mean, I think that government after government should actually look at the layout of certain areas, like the Mamobis, like the Nemes and stuff like that.
Ashama.
I mean, Ashama. Look, they would want...
That's
they
what
would, yes, they would love
it's
to...
terrible to go through.
Yes, they would like to see good roads. They would like to see... look, when you go to these areas, every corner is like an Appian way. You get me? So what do people do? Oh, this is an Appian way. Sure, then he wee-wees. Then somebody wee-wee at the corners. Cholera, mosquitoes, stuff like that. Governments should actually also look at these areas and let's say to themselves that, look, let's change the layout of these places. I think people there, if you should go to Nimana or the Mamobi and those places, and you let them know that, look, we don't Newtown, we don't want this to be an
Sukura.
alley. Sukura. We don't want
to name the place.
Okay, we don't want this to be an alley. We want to at least make sure that
By-
a fire service.
It would mean that you need to redemarcate and destroy houses.
No, it would mean that...
that is even another way of...
It was done successfully in Joburg, in South Africa, all these shanty towns. And now you go there today, and it's been regenerated.
Yes.
It's doable.
It's doable.
Now, I mean, not to take...
Do we have the political will to do something?
Listen, even if you drive around through our villages today, it looks like 70-80% of all the homes there are run down. And for me, I think that it's even an opportunity for us to re-engineer our economy whereby the country itself can go into an, what do you call it, a home building overdrive, whereby...
Use sustainable materials.
Exactly.
You can find locally.
You can find locally.
Perhaps the clay or the mud, we can mix it with...
In South Africa, for instance, the
they built some level
homeowners
of-
themselves were trained to build their own homes.
using some affordable materials.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think
They
that
use,
sometimes...
is it the laterites?
Laterite, and then it's
something.
baked, and we have all this. I mean, we even have pozzolana in Ghana, right?
Yeah.
So what it is that we need to think outside the box most of it.
Is it that we're not showing enough leadership as far as urban planning, trying to make sure we get right demarcations, street naming, national identifications, etc.? Because you are very comfortable having perhaps a UK passport or let's say UK papers, etc., or being identified adequately when you go
I use
elsewhere.
Ghanaian passport.
No, I'm only giving example.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you have. I mean, for the benefit of what I was saying.
Commission, you change it. No, let me quickly touch on the national identification matter quickly. I always know that is the solution.
Identification.
Identification is the solution.
It's good for taxes.
Everything. We don't even need to name them. Every single aspect of
Health,
our lives.
access.
Every single aspect of our lives. The problem here is
Policing.
the problem here is that now, if we are late in the day to look at it, yeah, I don't think it is too late in the day to actually make sure that we're doing it properly.
Meaning what?
Now, meaning that if we sort of like look at the registration of deaths and births, yeah, that is very, very key. For example, we make sure that henceforth, anybody at all who is born into Kolebu, whichever hospital at all, there is this particular area that you should go within a particular period of time,
You
a
get
week
your
or so,
identification.
to make sure that you register. And then it goes onto a system. It is there. You understand? But here we are, because we don't even have the houses well built to be numbered and roads named and stuff like that. He or she goes there and hasn't even got an address to sort of like register the child. If we can register children, new births, as at now, yeah, it's a very good start to keep a good record. And then find a way. For example, I believe that to address those of us who are grandfathers now, to address us now, then probably the route that is being taken, or the route that was taken about 6 years ago, yes, to register everybody at a go, that is not bad. But hey, please, I registered 6 years ago.
I made a
still
point
haven't got my
about
card.
as if we're going a step
Exactly.
forward.
Sorry?
I made a point about as if we're going forward and 2 steps back. Now, Eric made a point about us having these fragmented data bases around. We have 4. Now you even mentioned health and the death and births,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Or
Is
birth
it-
and deaths. Then you mentioned, now he's mentioned SNAIT. We have NHIA. We have various.
driver's license.
You know
we have
what?
the electoral.
You know what?
Why
know,
can't we just do an amalgamation of all these?
you want a good answer?
Yes,
Everybody-
I want a genuine answer.
Everybody wants to be heard. It's the problem.
No, but
But
we're
this is where
supposed
the
to show.
leadership comes in.
Yes,
I mean,
we're supposed to
yeah.
show
Hold on,
leadership and,
hold on, hold on, hold on.
and ensure the synchronization.
Yes, hold on. You understand? If we want to be honest, for us to register Ghanaians, individuals, I don't think that there should be even a whole secretariat and that sort of thing. You start off. It is what do you call it? A home office kind of issue.
even post
In this
office.
case, in this-
So Home Office is almost like the Ministry of Interior.
Yes, it is a home office kind of issue, and what it is that look, check from births. As soon as this person is born, we know him or her and where he or she lives. That person is registered. It's a
Why is it that we don't have the systems? It's mind-boggling.
but
Why is it that we don't have the systems
see,
here?
that is what I mean. You're talking about leadership, which I always say that.
You're coming to praise the president.
No. That is not where I'm trying. You see, when we talk about leaders, we always look at president. But
No, I thought that was what you're coming to.
No, what what it is that I am thinking that at the end of the day, you can't say that. What I'm actually trying to say here is that if you are a leader and you have more than a vision, I don't think you're a true leader.
You have more than a vision.
More than one vision.
More than one vision. Okay.
Now, this whole thing can seriously be the vision of a leader.
Yeah.
Seriously.
A particular leader.
Yes, I want every citizen of my country to be identified.
And it will be synchronized and
Yes,
done well.
and at the end of
It
the
could be
day,
it could be a vision on its
yes,
own.
at the end of the day, if everybody could say that, oh, in Auntie Arabella's time as president, yeah, every single road was named.
Horace, do you know what
every-
you've just done?
What have I
You
done?
just said that the president don't seem to have a vision.
I'm not
because he's
talking.
like-
No,
because he
you're
has
not,
different.
You are not getting it.
Let-
I'm not talking
Let
about.
me get it. How do I get
I'm
it?
not talking about President Mahama.
I know. I'm
Yes.
saying you've only inducted him with your comment.
That
That
is
he
your-
doesn't seem to get it.
No, that is your opinion. That is your opinion. Is it not the same President Mahama and the NDC who are naming streets? Is it not the same President Mahama and the NDC who are making sure that there's money there for?
So by
these
this
guys
comment,
to-
he has vision.
What I am trying to say is so simple. And you are trying to make sure that I target to President Mahama. No, I'm generalizing the whole thing.
Okay.
That it is a matter.
Your
that-
last comment will move on to
it
the
is a
subject
matter
on the
that
elections.
we have to actually tackle.
We have 10 minutes.
Okay?
Horace, it's
Okay,
okay.
you see, I think that if the president would actually want to be sort of seen as assertive, it should, as a matter of urgency, stop the NIA now.
I don't get you.
He has to.
You say we need a national identification. Now you say it should stop.
The NIA.
Now I'm confused, Eric Chum.
Well, the NIA should be stopped now. The process should be truncated, and let's have one single national policy on how we want to identify our people before we move on to
Because-
spend $150 million.
Because we're just doing things in fragmentation.
Exactly, and then we should have
Just
a proper
fragments.
policy going forward to make sure that we would identify all the people in this country and we do it properly.
Eric, that's
And
more
then
like the
as-
policy statements.
Yes,
I
I mean, because, I mean, I'm not being a doomsday person, but then, you see, we will spend this $150 million, and then come 2016, we will actually even go and then spend more money registering people to go and vote. You understand my point? So why don't we take even a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and say, this is where we want to go. This is how we want to go. And this.
Do you think that a future NPP government will take a look at this?
It should. I mean, because
no, it should. It means you're not sure.
No.
Okay, now let's look at something. You're talking about the NPP and the NDC. There's something about elections here.
By the time they come into this is not been done.
Do I have 10 minutes or not? So should I wrap up? Okay. So well, let me steal this one. 2 minutes. Presiding officers must take charge is a story Kofi Abo of the Daily Graphic seems to have filed on page 18. It talks about an IEA recommendation which says presiding officers must take charge of security at polling stations on election day to address conflict of interest concerns and enhance the credibility of elections. The IEA is continuing saying all security personnel assigned to polling stations on election day must be made to take orders from presiding officers. The IEA, however, has indicated that the police must take charge of other election-related security matters outside the polling station. We know the IEA hasn't been speaking on a number of issues more lately due to its effort to make sure the reforms that we need for the next election is in place and all that. I start with you. As far as the election reforms are concerned, the issue of the presiding officers and the polling station agents and their legitimacy and what needs to be done. How do we make sure we get it right before the next round of elections?
Well, I think since day one we've seen reforms, and each time they've been positive. And what I would want to see in this country is that elections are made easier. It's as simple as that. And that is, you see, these problems are also stemming from the fact that we don't have the national identification right. You understand? Elections should be it should be a very easy exercise.
To identify who is 18 or not.
Yes, he or she gets there. I mean, you just...
Because it means that he's been...
In the developed countries, you just go to the station and you take. In fact, you use a pencil, you just take. And then you just drop the card. Because they know where you are. Every single year, something is coming down your post to make sure that you take to still identify yourself to a particular address. So I know that reforms are ongoing and stuff like that. Like I said earlier on, everybody wants to be heard. Let us have a particular reform that will make voting very easy in this country for everybody.
And you feel that
the it's the answer.
A national identification system is the right way to go?
Well, I mean, for us in the NPP, when you talk about presiding officers and you sort of situate it with what happened in the Supreme Court, then we find ourselves in a certain dilemma because I think that without mincing words, we were left with a certain gray area as to exactly what the presiding officer is meant to do, especially in areas where presiding officers actually did not even append their signatures to records at the polling station. But I mean, that notwithstanding, I think that
those are maladministrative issues, right?
No, you see, there's an election that basically is meant to bring in a precedent, and this precedent is meant to superintend over a country for 4 years. You understand? Now, you cannot sort of undervalue the importance of making sure that whatever comes out of that particular polling station is categorically and it's unequivocally seen as what is a true representation of what happened. And the only person that can do that is a presiding officer, in my estimation, because all the other players are basically not going to be as objective as the presiding officer.
So you're saying as a party?
So as a party, our stance on this is that if is the case that presiding officers are supposed to be empowered to make sure, and then there's even suggestions that people that fail to do what they're meant to do at the polling stations in terms of administratively should be actually prosecuted. Now, if you take that role, the responsibility to help us in our national democratic, dispensation, then it's important that you also are responsible for what happens over there. So I share the views of the IEA in terms of making sure that we empower and then the right training is done. We also urge the DES, for instance, to make sure that this time round,
But do you agree, just like any human institution, mistakes could be made? Fine. By even the so-called presiding member officers that we think that need to be the right things.
This very dubious call prior to the elections whereby teachers were actually asked to refrain from coming on as presiding officer and all that should be changed. Because
right.
that is the reason why we had
If I
some
give
of
it
the
10 minutes, I'm
mess
sure you. Did you guys go to a meeting? MPP, you went to a meeting and decided all these things?
No, I mean, of course, we are a party. We have a position on what happened. And then, of course, that is the major reason why we are not in government today. What happened at the police.
The gentleman speaking is Eric Chum. He's the vice chairman of the MPP for the Trobu constituency. Thanks for joining me, Eric. I hope to have you again sometime next week. We'll do a lot more deliberations on issues of national interest. Ni Ayi Horace Ankra or Horace Ni Ayi Ankra, whichever way you want to phrase
it's not
it.
whichever way.
Yeah.
It's Horace Ni Ayi Ankra. So it's never whichever way.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
All right, nice to meet you.
He's a former chairman of the NDC for UK Ireland. Thanks for joining me, sir.
It's a pleasure.
He also appeared before the commission that is investigating Ghana's participation in the Black Stars in the Brazil 2014.
Well, that is what I am now.
I say you appeared before the commission. We're taking a break.